The moment Serena Hale felt her first contraction, her husband walked into the hospital room with an envelope instead of flowers. Inside were divorce papers, signed, dated, and effective immediately. No explanation, no apology, just a cold exit while she doubled over in pain, her baby fighting to be born too early. She begged him to stay. He left anyway. 20 minutes later, through the paper-thin wall separating her from the next room, she heard a man's voice, low, steady, dangerous, telling someone on the phone that loyalty wasn't negotiable. She didn't know it yet, but that voice would change everything. If you want to see how a woman rebuilds her life after losing everything in a single morning, stay with me until the end. Hit that like button and drop a comment with your city so I can see how far this story reaches. Serena had always hated hospitals. The smell of antiseptic, the fluorescent lights that made everyone look half dead, the sounds of machines that beeped for reasons you didn't want to think about. But she hadn't expected to hate this particular hospital room for an entirely different reason. She was 31 weeks pregnant, high risk, preeclampsia. The doctors had told her to stay calm, to keep her blood pressure down, to avoid stress at all costs. So naturally, her husband chose that exact moment to destroy her life. Kyle Hale walked in at 8:43 in the morning. She remembered the time because she'd been watching the clock, counting contractions, trying to breathe through the tightness in her abdomen that felt like her body was trying to split itself in half. She'd texted him 3 times, called twice. He finally showed up wearing his work suit, the charcoal one he wore when he had important meetings, and carrying a leather folder instead of the overnight bag she'd asked him to pack. "You're here," she said, relief flooding through her even though something in his face made her stomach drop. "Kyle, I think something's wrong. The contractions are getting closer and the nurse said, 'I can't do this.'" She blinked. "Can't do what?" "This. Any of it." He set the folder on the rolling table next to her bed, right on top of the hospital menu she hadn't been able to stomach looking at. "I need you to sign these." Serena stared at the folder. Her brain felt slow, like it was trying to process information through mud. "Sign what?" "Divorce papers." The words hung in the air like something physical, something she could reach out and touch if she wanted to. She didn't want to. "You're joking." "I'm not." "Kyle, I'm in labor. I'm our baby." "That's the thing, Serena." He wouldn't look at her, kept his eyes on the folder, on the wall, on anything that wasn't her face. "I don't think I can be a father. I don't think I can be married. I've been thinking about this for months and I can't do it." "Months?" Her voice cracked. "You've been thinking about leaving me for months and you're telling me now?" "I didn't know how to bring it up." "So you waited until I'm lying in a hospital bed about to have our daughter 9 weeks early?" She tried to sit up, but another contraction hit and she gasped, clutching the side rail. "Jesus, Kyle, what is wrong with you?" "I know the timing isn't great." "The timing isn't great?" She wanted to scream but couldn't get enough air. "I could lose her. Do you understand that? I could lose our baby and you're standing here telling me you want a divorce?" "It's already done." His voice was flat, practiced, like he'd rehearsed this. "I filed last week. These are just the formalities. You need to sign the financial disclosures and the settlement agreement. My lawyer said if you cooperate, we can have everything finalized in 60 days. "Your lawyer?" She laughed, but it came out wrong, choked and bitter. "You got a lawyer. Serena, be reasonable. Get out. You need to sign. Get out!" The shout tore something in her throat. She felt it rip, felt the pain spike behind her eyes as her blood pressure spiked with it. The monitor next to her bed started beeping faster, louder, and Kyle took a step back like she'd physically pushed him. "Fine," he said. "I'll leave the papers. Have your lawyer look them over. But Serena, I'm serious about this. I'm not changing my mind." He walked out, just turned and left, and she heard his footsteps echo down the hallway, getting quieter and quieter until they disappeared completely. Serena sat there, shaking, staring at the leather folder. She didn't open it. Couldn't. If she opened it, it would be real. If she opened it, she'd have to accept that her husband had just abandoned her while their daughter fought for survival inside her body. Another contraction hit. Worse this time. She doubled over, gasping, and hit the call button with a hand that wouldn't stop trembling. The nurse came in, Brenda, the older one with the kind eyes, and took one look at her face before checking the monitors. "Honey, your BP just spiked. What happened?" Serena couldn't answer. Couldn't form words, just shook her head and tried to breathe through the pain that had nothing to do with contractions and everything to do with the man who'd just walked away from her. "Okay, we're going to get the doctor in here," Brenda said, her voice calm but urgent. "I need you to try to relax, okay? I know that sounds impossible right now, but I need you to breathe with me. In through your nose, out through your mouth. That's it. Good." The doctor came. Dr. Reeves, a woman in her 50s who looked like she'd delivered 1,000 babies and seen every possible disaster. She examined Serena, checked the monitors, and made a decision in under 3 minutes. "We're going to give you something to stop the contractions," she said. "You're at 31 weeks. Every day we can keep her inside is crucial, but if your blood pressure doesn't come down, we might not have a choice." "She has to be okay," Serena whispered. "Please, she has to be okay. We're going to do everything we can." Dr. Reeves squeezed her hand. "But I need you to help me. Whatever just happened, whatever's stressing you out, you need to let it go for now. Can you do that?" Serena nodded, even though it was a lie. She couldn't let it go. How could she let it go? Her husband had just filed for divorce while she was in premature labor. Her entire life had just collapsed in the space of a 10-minute conversation. They gave her magnesium sulfate through an IV. It made her feel like her skin was on fire, like her blood had been replaced with something hot and wrong, but it worked. The contractions slowed, stopped. Her blood pressure stabilized, barely, but enough. Dr. Reeves ordered bed rest, complete bed rest. No getting up except to use the bathroom, no stress, no visitors unless they were approved. "That includes your husband," she said, and something in her tone made Serena think maybe Brenda had filled her in. "If he's causing you stress, he doesn't get to be here." "He won't be back," Serena said quietly. "He made that clear." Dr. Reeves looked like she wanted to say something, but she just nodded and left. Brenda stayed a little longer, adjusting the IV, checking the monitors one more time. "You're going to be here for a while," she said. "Maybe a few days, maybe longer. Is there someone I can call for you? Your mom? A friend?" Serena shook her head. Her mother had died 3 years ago, breast cancer. Her father had remarried and moved to Arizona with a woman who made it very clear that stepchildren weren't part of the package. She had friends, sort of. Work friends. College friends she hadn't talked to in years. Nobody she wanted to call and say, "Hey, my husband just left me while I'm trying not to have a premature baby. Can you come hold my hand?" "I'm okay," she lied. Brenda gave her a look that said she knew it was bullshit, but wasn't going to push. "I'll check on you in an hour." After she left, Serena lay in the quiet hospital room and tried not to think, tried not to feel, tried not to look at the leather folder sitting on the table next to her. She lasted about 10 minutes before she reached for it. The papers inside were exactly what Kyle had said they were. Divorce petition, financial disclosures, settlement agreement. She skimmed through them, her hands shaking so hard the pages rustled. He wanted the house, their house. The one they'd bought together 2 years ago, the one she'd spent months painting and decorating, the one where she'd set up a nursery in the smallest bedroom with pale yellow walls and a white crib and a mobile that played Brahms' Lullaby. He wanted the car. The new one. The SUV they'd bought specifically because it had the highest safety ratings for car seats. He was offering her $5,000. Total. As a settlement. "You son of a bitch," she whispered. They'd been married for 4 years. She'd worked full-time until 6 months ago when her pregnancy became high risk and her doctor had ordered her to stop. Kyle had said it was fine. They could afford it. He made good money as a regional sales manager for a pharmaceutical company. They'd be okay. Now she understood. He'd been planning this, probably since the moment she'd told him she was pregnant, maybe before. And he'd waited until she was vulnerable, until she was stuck in a hospital bed and couldn't fight back, to hand her papers that would leave her with nothing. She should call a lawyer. She knew that. But she didn't know any lawyers, didn't know where to start, didn't have money to pay for one even if she could find one. The panic started small, just a flutter in her chest, and then grew until she couldn't breathe. She was going to lose everything. The house, the car, her savings, her health insurance. She was going to be a single mother with no job and no money and a premature baby who might have medical complications that cost hundreds of thousands of dollars. She tried to breathe through it the way Brenda had taught her, but it wasn't working. Her chest felt tight, too tight. The room felt too small. And that's when she heard the voice. It came through the wall, the one separating her room from the one next door. A man's voice. Deep. Controlled. The kind of voice that didn't ask for things, it stated them. I don't care what he thinks he's owed, the voice said. He had a job to do and he didn't do it. That's not my problem. A pause. Serena realized he was on the phone. No second chances. You don't get to fuck up this badly and then ask for mercy. He knew the terms when he signed on. Another pause. Longer this time. I'm handling it. Just make sure the family know the message was received. Loyalty isn't optional. It's the baseline. If you can't meet that, you don't get a seat at the table. The call ended. Serena heard the faint sound of movement, footsteps, then nothing. She should have felt scared. That voice, those words, they didn't sound like a normal conversation. They sounded dangerous. The kind of thing you heard in movies about organized crime, about people who made problems disappear. But instead of fear, she felt something else, something strange and wrong, and completely inappropriate given the situation. She felt jealous. Jealous that someone, somewhere, had that kind of certainty, that kind of power, the ability to say, this is how it is, and have people listen. She'd spent the last 4 years trying to make Kyle happy, trying to be the kind of wife he wanted. She'd given up her job when he'd asked her to. She'd agreed to move to this city when he'd gotten a promotion. She'd painted the nursery yellow instead of the soft green she'd wanted because he'd said yellow was more traditional. And the moment she'd needed him to show up for her, he'd left. The man on the other side of the wall, whoever he was, wouldn't have left. She didn't know how she knew that, but she did. If he made a promise, he kept it. If he committed to something, he saw it through. She was losing her mind. That was the only explanation. Lying here listening to a stranger's phone conversation and deciding he was somehow better than her husband based on 30 seconds of overheard dialogue. She closed her eyes and tried to sleep. The magnesium sulfate made her drowsy, made her thoughts fuzzy and slow. She drifted in and out, never fully asleep but never fully awake either. Hours passed. Brenda came back, checked her vitals, seemed satisfied. Dinner arrived, bland chicken and steamed vegetables that she picked at without tasting. The sun set. The hospital grew quieter. And then, around 9 o'clock, she heard voices in the hallway. Raised voices. Sir, you can't go in there without approval from the patient. I'm her husband. I have every right. She specifically said she didn't want visitors. I don't care what she said. I need to talk to her. Serena's whole body went rigid. Kyle was back. The door burst open before Brenda could stop him. He walked in looking agitated, his tie loosened, his hair messy like he'd been running his hands through it. Serena, listen. Get out. I need to explain. I said get out. Her voice was steadier than she expected. Cold. She barely recognized it. The settlement offer, it's not final. We can negotiate. You offered me $5,000 for 4 years of marriage and a house I helped pay for. There's nothing to negotiate. Get out or I'll have security remove you. Kyle looked genuinely shocked, like he'd expected her to crumble, to beg, to make this easy for him. You're being unreasonable, he said. I'm being unreasonable. She laughed, sharp and bitter. You handed me divorce papers while I was in labor, and I'm being unreasonable. I told you, the timing wasn't ideal. You think? She sat up despite the fact that she wasn't supposed to move. You think showing up here tonight makes it better? You think you can just walk back in and explain your way out of what you did? I'm trying to be fair. Fair would have been telling me you were unhappy before you filed for divorce. Fair would have been not waiting until I was 9 weeks from my due date and lying in a hospital bed. Fair would have been treating me like a human being instead of a problem you needed to solve. Kyle's face hardened. This was the version of him she'd seen more and more over the past year. The one who didn't like being challenged, the one who thought he was always right, and everyone else was just being difficult. Fine, he said. Be angry. But you still need to sign the papers, and if you fight me on this, Serena, it's only going to get worse for you. I have a lawyer, I have resources, you have nothing. Then I guess I have nothing to lose. They stared at each other. And in that moment, Serena understood something she should have understood years ago. She didn't know this man. Maybe she never had. She'd married a version of Kyle that he'd presented to her, polished and charming and attentive, but that version had been a performance. This was who he really was. I'm not signing anything until I have my own lawyer look at it, she said. So you can go. Kyle's jaw tightened. You're making a mistake. Probably, but it's my mistake to make. He left without another word. This time, Brenda was standing in the doorway, arms crossed, blocking his path until he was well down the hallway. You okay? She asked when she came back in. No. Serena's hands were shaking again. But I will be. Brenda nodded like she understood, like she'd seen this before. Women alone. Women abandoned. Women who had to find a way to be okay even when everything was falling apart. Try to get some rest, she said quietly. We'll figure out the other stuff tomorrow. But Serena couldn't rest. Her mind was racing. She needed a lawyer. She needed money. She needed a plan. And she had none of those things. She lay there in the dark, listening to the sounds of the hospital, trying not to panic. And then she heard movement in the next room. Footsteps. The scrape of a chair. Can't sleep either? The voice came through the wall again. The same man from earlier, but this time he wasn't on the phone. This time he was talking to her. Serena froze. What? The walls are thin. I heard your visitor. A pause. He sounded like a real piece of work. You were listening? I was trying not to, but like I said, thin walls. Serena didn't know what to say. This was bizarre. She was having a conversation with a stranger through a hospital wall at 9 o'clock at night. I'm sorry if we were too loud, she said finally. Don't apologize. He's the one who should be apologizing. Another pause. I'm Adrian, by the way. Room 412. Serena, room 411. Nice to meet you, Serena. His voice was different now, quieter, less dangerous, almost gentle. For what it's worth, you handled that better than he deserved. I don't feel like I handled it well. You stood your ground. That's more than most people do when they're cornered. I'm not cornered, aren't you? The question hit harder than it should have, because he was right. She was cornered. No job, no money, no support system, 9 weeks from having a premature baby. She was the definition of cornered. Why are you here? She asked, partly to change the subject and partly because she genuinely wanted to know. In the hospital, I mean. Complications, he said vaguely. Nothing life-threatening, just inconvenient. That's a very non-specific answer. I could say the same about handling things better than he deserved. Fair point. They were both being vague, both protecting themselves. Your husband, Adrian said after a moment. He mentioned a settlement. Divorce? You really were listening. Hard not to when he was practically shouting. A pause. You don't have to tell me, but if you need advice, practical advice, not emotional advice, I know some things. Like what? Like how to make sure someone doesn't screw you over in a divorce settlement. Like how to find a lawyer who won't charge you up front. Like how to protect yourself when someone with resources is trying to bury you. Serena's throat tightened. Why would you help me? Why wouldn't I? You don't know me. No, but I know what it sounds like when someone's fighting alone. And I know what it sounds like when someone's trying to survive something they shouldn't have to survive. She didn't cry. She'd promised herself she wouldn't cry anymore tonight, but her eyes burned and her chest ached and she had to swallow hard before she could speak. I don't know what to do, she admitted quietly. I don't know where to start. Start by not signing anything he gives you. Start by getting your own lawyer. I can give you a name. Start by documenting everything, every conversation, every threat, every promise he made and broke, and start by understanding that this isn't over just because he says it is. He said he has resources, that I have nothing. He's wrong. Adrian's voice was firm, certain. You have more than he thinks. You just haven't figured out how to use it yet. And what do I have exactly? The truth, the moral high ground, and the fact that he showed his hand too early. He thinks he's got you trapped, which means he's going to get sloppy. People always do when they think they've already won. Serena closed her eyes. She didn't know if she believed him, didn't know if any of this was real, or if she was just so desperate for help that she was clinging to words from a stranger through a hospital wall. But it felt real. And right now, that was enough. Thank you, she whispered. Don't thank me yet. We haven't fixed anything. No, but you didn't walk away. That's more than I've gotten from anyone else today. Then everyone else today is an idiot. She laughed. Actually laughed. It was small and shaky, but it was real. Get some rest, Adrian said. Tomorrow, we'll figure out the next step. We? If you want help, I'm offering. If you don't, that's fine too, but the offer's there. Serena didn't answer right away. She should say no. Should tell him she'd figure it out on her own. But the truth was, she couldn't figure it out on her own. She needed help, and right now he was the only person offering. Okay, she said quietly. Okay. Thank you. Try to sleep. You too. The room fell quiet. Serena lay there, staring at the ceiling, feeling something she hadn't felt since Kyle walked in with that folder. Hope. It was small, fragile, could disappear by morning, but it was there. She closed her eyes and, for the first time that day, fell asleep without crying. Morning came with the smell of bad coffee and the sound of breakfast carts rattling down the hallway. Serena woke up disoriented, forgetting for half a second where she was and why. Then it all came rushing back. The divorce papers, Kyle's face, the way he'd looked at her like she was a problem he'd finally solved. She reached for her phone on the bedside table. 7 missed calls from Kyle. 4 voicemails. She deleted them without listening. Brenda came in around 8 with a blood pressure cuff and a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. How are we feeling this morning? Like I got hit by a truck. That's the magnesium. Makes you feel like garbage, but it's keeping that baby inside, so we'll take it. She wrapped the cuff around Serena's arm. BP's still high, but better than yesterday. Doctor wants to keep you here at least another 48 hours, maybe longer. I can't afford longer. Brenda gave her a look. Honey, you can't afford to have a 29-week baby in the NICU either. Let's focus on keeping her cooking as long as possible. Serena wanted to argue, but she knew Brenda was right. Every day mattered. Every hour, really. Is there a social worker or someone I can talk to? She asked. About insurance or payment plans or... I'll have someone come by this afternoon. But don't stress about it right now. We'll figure it out. After Brenda left, Serena lay there staring at the ceiling and trying not to calculate how much a hospital stay cost per day. She'd always had insurance through Kyle's job, good insurance. But if they were getting divorced, she'd lose that. And finding her own policy while pregnant wasn't exactly going to be cheap. She was spiraling again. She could feel it happening, the panic starting to build in her chest. Then she heard movement next door, footsteps, the sound of a door opening and closing. You awake? Adrian's voice came through the wall. Unfortunately. Still as chipper as yesterday, I see. Despite everything, she smiled. Sorry, not a morning person even when my life isn't falling apart. Fair enough. You eat breakfast yet? They brought something that claimed to be oatmeal, but I'm pretty sure it was actually wallpaper paste. He laughed. Actually laughed. It was a good sound, warm and real. Give me 20 minutes, he said. For what? But he didn't answer. Just more footsteps, then nothing. Exactly 20 minutes later, there was a knock on her door. Not Brenda, not a doctor. A young woman in expensive-looking clothes carrying 2 paper bags that smelled like actual food. Serena Hale, the woman asked. That's me. Mr. Morelli asked me to bring you breakfast. She set the bags on the table and started unpacking them. Real bagels, cream cheese, fresh fruit, orange juice that looked like it had actually been squeezed from oranges instead of reconstituted from powder. Wait, Mr. Morelli? Adrian? He's in 412. He thought you might appreciate something better than hospital food. The woman smiled. I'm Elena, by the way. I work for Mr. Morelli. If you need anything else, just let the nurses know and they'll call me. I can't accept this. He said you'd say that. He also said to tell you it's not charity, it's basic human decency, and if you send it back, he'll be offended. Serena didn't know what to say. She looked at the food, then at Elena, then at the wall separating her room from Adrian's. Is he always like this? Like what? Bossy. Elena's smile widened. You have no idea. Eat. I'll check on you later. After she left, Serena stared at the food for a long moment before finally reaching for a bagel. It was still warm, still soft. The cream cheese was the good kind, the kind with actual flavor instead of the bland stuff that came in plastic tubs. She ate it slowly, savoring every bite, and tried to remember the last time Kyle had brought her breakfast without her asking. She couldn't. Thank you, she said quietly to the wall. You're welcome, Adrian replied. How was it? Better than wallpaper paste. High praise. She finished eating, and then, because she didn't know what else to do, she said, "You mentioned a lawyer yesterday, someone who wouldn't charge up front. Marcus Rivera, good guy, handles family law. He owes me a favor, so he'll take your case and bill you later once you get the settlement. And if there is no settlement, if Kyle manages to leave me with nothing, then Marcus will figure something else out. But trust me, there will be a settlement. Your husband isn't nearly as smart as he thinks he is." "How do you know?" "Because smart people don't show their hand that early. They wait. They plan. They make sure everything's locked down before they make a move. He filed last week and handed you papers yesterday? That's amateur hour. He's either desperate or stupid, and either way, it works in your favor." Serena wanted to believe him. Wanted to trust that someone out there knew what they were doing, because she sure as hell didn't. "Can I ask you something?" she said. "Go ahead." "Why are you helping me? Really? And don't say why wouldn't I, because that's not an answer." Silence. Long enough that she thought maybe she'd offended him. Then, "You ever have someone walk away from you when you needed them most?" "Currently experiencing it, actually." "Then you know how it feels. And you know that if someone had shown up, anyone, and just not walked away, it would have made a difference." He paused. "Someone showed up for me once, long time ago. I didn't forget it. What happened to them?" "They died." The words were flat, matter of fact, but Serena heard the weight underneath them. "I'm sorry." "Don't be. Just pay it forward someday when you're on the other side of this." Before she could respond, her door opened again. Not Elena this time. A man in a suit that probably cost more than Serena's car. Her former car, she corrected herself bitterly. He was older, maybe late 50s, with silver hair and the kind of face that looked like it had seen some things. "Mrs. Hale?" "Ms. Hale," she corrected automatically. "Or about to be, anyway. Marcus Rivera." He held out a hand and she shook it. "Adrian Morelli asked me to stop by." That was fast. "He said it was urgent." Marcus pulled up a chair and set a leather briefcase on his lap. "I understand your husband served you divorce papers yesterday while you were in the hospital." "You understand correctly. And he's offering you $5,000 as a settlement?" "Apparently that's what 4 years of marriage is worth." Marcus's expression didn't change, but something flickered in his eyes. Anger, maybe. Or disgust. "Walk me through the marriage, assets, income, contributions, everything." So she did. Told him about the house they'd bought together, how she'd put down half the down payment from her savings. Told him about the car, the furniture, the joint bank account that Kyle had drained 2 weeks ago. She'd discovered that yesterday when she'd tried to pay for parking at the hospital. Told him about her job, how she'd quit 6 months ago because her pregnancy was high risk, and Kyle had said they'd be fine on his salary alone. Marcus took notes, asked questions. And the more they talked, the angrier he looked. "He's trying to screw you," Marcus said finally. "But he made mistakes, big ones." "Like what?" "Like draining the joint account before the divorce was finalized. That's illegal. Like offering you a settlement that's so far below what you're entitled to that any judge would laugh him out of court. Like serving you papers while you're in a hospital bed, which makes him look like exactly what he is." Marcus closed his briefcase. "I'm taking your case, and I'm going to make sure he regrets every decision he made in the last month." "I can't pay you right now. You'll pay me when we win, and we will win." He stood up. "I'll file a response to his petition this afternoon, and I'm going to request an emergency hearing to get you temporary support and access to the joint accounts. In the meantime, don't sign anything, don't agree to anything, and if he contacts you, don't respond. Let me handle it." "Okay, I'm serious, Ms. Hale, not a word. No texts, no calls, nothing. If he shows up here again, you call security, and then you call me." He handed her a business card. "My cell number's on there. Use it if you need to." After he left, Serena sat there holding the card and feeling like maybe, possibly, she wasn't completely alone in this. "He's good," Adrian said through the wall. "You were listening. Thin walls. We've established this. He seems angry. Marcus hates bullies, and your husband is a bully." A pause. "He's also expensive, but like I said, he owes me a favor." "How big of a favor?" "The kind you don't ask questions about." That should have worried her, should have made her wonder what kind of man Adrian really was, what kind of favors people owed him. But right now she didn't care. Right now, she had a lawyer who was willing to fight for her, and that was more than she'd had yesterday. The rest of the day passed slowly. Nurses came and went. They drew blood, checked her vitals, adjusted her IV. Dr. Reeves stopped by in the afternoon and seemed pleased that Serena's blood pressure was down and the contractions hadn't returned. "We're going to keep you here through the weekend at least," she said. "If everything stays stable, we might be able to send you home on Monday with strict bed rest orders. But that's a big if." "I understand. And Ms. Hale, whatever's going on with your personal life, I know it's not easy, but you need to find a way to manage the stress. For your sake and the baby's." "I'm trying." "I know. Just keep trying." Around 6 o'clock, Elena came back with dinner. Not hospital food this time either. Real food. Grilled chicken, roasted vegetables, bread that was actually soft. Serena wanted to protest again, but she was too hungry and too tired. "Mr. Morelli says if you need anything tonight, just knock on the wall," Elena said. "I can't keep taking things from him." "Then consider it a loan. Pay him back when you're back on your feet." Elena smiled. "He's not as scary as he seems, you know." "Is he scary?" "To most people, yes. But I've worked for him for 8 years, and he's never been anything but fair with me. Generous, even. He takes care of people who are loyal to him. And people who aren't?" Elena's smile faded slightly. "Let's just say loyalty is very important to Mr. Morelli." After she left, Serena ate her dinner and thought about that phone call she'd overheard yesterday. The one about loyalty not being optional, about someone not getting a second chance after they'd messed up. "Adrian?" she said to the wall. "Yeah? What do you do? For work, I mean." Long silence. She thought maybe he wasn't going to answer. "I run a family business," he said finally. "What kind of business?" "The kind that requires a lot of loyalty." That's not an answer. "No, but it's the one you're getting right now." Fair enough. She wasn't exactly being completely open with him either. She hadn't told him about the nightmares she'd been having about the baby being born too early. Hadn't told him about the time she'd wake up in the middle of the night convinced something was wrong, that she'd lost the baby, that everything was already over. "Can I ask you something?" she said. "You're full of questions today. Why are you here, in the hospital? You said complications, but that's not really an answer either." "Gunshot wound," he said, so casually she thought she'd misheard. "I'm sorry, what?" "Got shot 3 weeks ago. Bullet grazed my side, got infected. They're pumping me full of antibiotics and making sure I don't develop sepsis. Should be out of here in a few days." "You got shot?" "Yep. And you're saying that like it's no big deal. It's not. Could have been a lot worse. Could have been..." Serena couldn't find words. Who gets shot and then acts like it's just a minor inconvenience? People in my line of work? Which is what exactly? We've already covered this. Family business requires loyalty. Sometimes things get complicated. Complicated enough that people shoot at you? Sometimes. Serena lay there trying to process that. Adrian, the man who'd sent her breakfast and arranged for a lawyer and talked to her through a hospital wall when she had no one else, had been shot. Was apparently in some kind of business where getting shot was just part of the job. She should be scared, should put up walls, should stop talking to him right now. But she wasn't scared, because whatever he was, whatever he did, he'd shown her more kindness in 24 hours than her husband had shown her in months. "Does it hurt?" she asked quietly. "Not anymore. They've got me on the good drugs. I'm on magnesium sulfate. Makes me feel like my skin is on fire." "That sounds worse than getting shot." "I don't know. I haven't been shot. Let's keep it that way." She smiled despite herself. This whole situation was insane. She was lying in a hospital bed having a conversation with a man she'd never seen about gunshot wounds and divorce settlements and the relative discomfort of various medical treatments. "Adrian?" "Yeah?" "Thank you for everything. The food, the lawyer, just thank you." "You already thanked me." "I know, but I mean it." "I know you do." A pause. "Get some rest, Serena. Tomorrow we'll start figuring out your next move." "What's the next move?" "You're going to need a place to live when you get out of here, and a way to make money, and a plan for what happens when the baby comes." "I had all that. And then Kyle took it away." "Then we'll build it back. Better this time. Yours instead of his." "You make it sound easy." It's not. But it's possible. That's more than you had yesterday. He was right. Yesterday she'd had nothing. Today she had a lawyer and a stranger who kept insisting on helping her for reasons she didn't fully understand. Tomorrow she'd figure out the rest. She fell asleep sometime after 10, exhausted but calmer than she'd been in weeks. And when she woke up in the middle of the night from a nightmare about the baby, she knocked on the wall without thinking. "You okay?" Adrian's voice came immediately, like he'd been awake too. "Bad dream." "About?" "Losing her. The baby. I keep dreaming that something goes wrong and she's gone and it's my fault because I couldn't keep her safe. That's not going to happen. You don't know that." "No, but I know you're doing everything you can, and sometimes that has to be enough." He paused. "What are you going to name her?" The question caught her off guard. Kyle had wanted to name the baby Sophia. Serena had never liked it, but she'd agreed because it was easier than fighting. But now, "I don't know," she said. "I had a name picked out, but I don't want it anymore. It was his choice, not mine." "So pick a new one." "Just like that?" "Why not? Everything else is changing. Might as well start fresh." Serena thought about that. About starting fresh. About choosing things for herself instead of compromising and accommodating and trying to make someone else happy. "Maya," she said suddenly. "I want to name her Maya. That's a good name." "You think?" "I think it doesn't matter what I think. It's your daughter, your choice." "Maya Hale," she said, testing it out. Not Maya Hale, whatever Kyle's middle name was. Just Maya Hale. Her daughter. Her choice. "There you go," Adrian said quietly. "First decision of your new life." "It's a small decision." "Small decisions add up, trust me." She wanted to ask what he meant by that, but she was too tired. The magnesium made everything feel heavy and slow, and she could feel herself drifting again. "Adrian?" "Yeah?" "Will you still be here tomorrow?" "Where else would I go? I'm stuck in this place until they decide I'm not going to die of sepsis. That's not funny." "Wasn't meant to be." "Go to sleep, Serena. I'll still be here in the morning." She believed him. And that belief, that trust in a complete stranger, should have felt foolish. But it didn't. It felt like the first solid thing she'd had to hold on to in a very long time. The next morning, Kyle's lawyer called. Marcus intercepted it, thank God, because Serena didn't think she could handle hearing Kyle's demands filtered through some expensive attorney's polished delivery. Marcus called her after. "They want to schedule mediation. They're trying to rush this, which tells me they're worried." "About what?" "About you lawyering up. About a judge seeing how badly he's trying to screw you. About this getting dragged out and costing him money. He wants this done fast and quiet." Marcus's voice was sharp, satisfied. "We're not going to give him that. We're going to make this as slow and public as legally possible." "Won't that cost more?" "Let me worry about costs. You worry about staying calm and keeping that baby inside as long as possible." After he hung up, Serena lay there feeling something unfamiliar. Not hope, exactly, but something close. The sense that maybe she wasn't completely powerless after all. "Good news?" Adrian asked through the wall. "Kyle's lawyer is scrambling. Told you. He made mistakes. Now he's paying for them." "I still don't understand why you're doing this. Helping me." "You want the truth?" "Please." "I spent a long time in a world where nobody helps anyone unless they get something out of it. Where loyalty costs money and trust is just another transaction. And I'm good at that world. I know how it works. But sometimes I need to remember that not everything has to be a transaction. That sometimes you can just help someone because they need help, and you're in a position to give it." "That's it? You're helping me to remind yourself that good people exist?" "Something like that." "I'm not sure I'm a good person." "Why would you say that?" "Because a good person wouldn't have married someone like Kyle. Wouldn't have ignored all the signs that he was selfish and controlling. Wouldn't have given up her job and her savings and her entire life for someone who didn't actually care about her. That doesn't make you a bad person. That makes you human. We all make mistakes. The difference is whether you learn from them or repeat them. And which do you think I'll do?" "I think you're already learning. Otherwise, you would have signed those papers yesterday instead of calling a lawyer." He was right. She knew he was right. But it was hard to believe it when everything still felt so raw and broken. The weekend passed in a strange kind of limbo. Serena stayed in bed, hooked to monitors, pumped full of medications. Adrian stayed next door, apparently also hooked to monitors and pumped full of antibiotics. They talked through the wall when neither of them could sleep. About nothing. About everything. He told her about growing up in New York, about a father who'd been hard but fair, about learning early that loyalty was the only currency that mattered. She told him about her mother's death, about feeling like she'd lost her only ally, about marrying Kyle partly because she'd been terrified of being alone. On Sunday evening, Dr. Reeves came by with good news. Blood pressure's stable, no contractions. I think we can send you home tomorrow with strict bed rest instructions. And I mean strict. You get up to use the bathroom, and that's it. No cooking, no cleaning, no stress. How am I supposed to avoid stress when I'm in the middle of a divorce? That's the million-dollar question. Dr. Reeves looked at her chart. Do you have someone who can stay with you? Help out? Serena shook her head. I'll figure it out. After the doctor left, she knocked on the wall. You hear that? Congratulations on escaping, Adrian said. I'm supposed to have someone stay with me. Make sure I don't do anything stupid like stand up for more than 5 minutes. And you don't have anyone? Nope. Where are you going? The house? Kyle's probably changed the locks by now, so we'll get Marcus to file an injunction. You still have rights to the house until the divorce is finalized. And if he refuses to leave? Then he'll get arrested for violating a court order. Trust me, he's not that stupid. Serena wanted to believe that, wanted to think Kyle would at least respect a legal order, even if he didn't respect her. What if I can't do this? She said quietly. What if I'm not strong enough? Then you fake it until you are. That's what strength is, Serena. It's not about being fearless. It's about being terrified and doing it anyway. Is that what you do? Every damn day. She didn't know what to say to that. Didn't know how to process the fact that this man, who seemed so certain, so controlled, was apparently just as scared as she was underneath it all. Will I see you again? She asked. After tomorrow? Do you want to? I don't know. Maybe. Is that weird? Probably, but I don't care. Give me your number. I'll check in. Make sure you're not doing anything stupid like lifting furniture or signing settlement offers. She gave him her number. He called it immediately so she'd have his. And then they sat in silence for a while. Two strangers on opposite sides of a hospital wall who'd somehow become something more than strangers without ever actually meeting. Adrian? Yeah? Thank you for not walking away. Thank you for letting me stay. Monday morning came too fast. Brenda helped Serena get dressed, gave her a folder full of discharge instructions, and made her promise to actually follow them. You've got my number if anything feels wrong. And I mean anything, pain, bleeding, contractions, you call immediately. I will. I'm serious, honey. You're not out of the woods yet. Every day counts. As they were preparing to wheel her out, Serena heard movement next door. Adrian's door opening. Hold on, she told Brenda. She stood up, carefully, slowly, and walked to the doorway. And for the first time, she saw him. Adrian Morelli was not what she expected. He was younger than she'd thought, maybe late 30s, with dark hair and darker eyes, and a face that looked like it had been carved from something harder than normal human features. He was tall, broad-shouldered, wearing a black t-shirt that revealed bandages wrapped around his torso. And he was watching her with an intensity that should have been uncomfortable, but somehow wasn't. So you're real, she said. Were you starting to think I wasn't? Maybe. They stared at each other. And in that moment, Serena understood why Elena had said he was scary. There was something dangerous about him, something that suggested violence was always just beneath the surface. But there was also something else, something careful and controlled and almost gentle when he looked at her. You'll be okay, he said. It wasn't a question. I'll try. No, you'll be okay, I'm not asking. She smiled. Yes, sir. That's better now. Go home, rest, let Marcus do his job. And call me if Kyle does anything stupid. Okay. She got in the wheelchair. Brenda started pushing her toward the elevator. But before they turned the corner, Serena looked back. Adrian was still standing in his doorway, watching her go. He raised one hand in a small wave. She waved back. And then she was in the elevator, going down, leaving the hospital, stepping out into a world that suddenly felt both terrifying and full of possibility. Marcus was waiting in the lobby with paperwork. I filed the injunction. Kyle has 24 hours to vacate the house. If he's not gone by tomorrow morning, he'll be arrested. You really think he'll leave? He doesn't have a choice. They drove to the house. Marcus came with her, just in case. But the house was empty. Kyle had taken some of his clothes, his laptop, a few pieces of furniture, but most of it was still there. The nursery was untouched, yellow walls, white crib, the mobile that played Brahms' lullaby. Serena stood in the doorway and felt something crack open inside her chest. This was her home, her daughter's home. Kyle could file all the papers he wanted, could make all the threats he wanted, but this space? This belonged to them. Marcus left after making sure all the locks were changed and the security system was working. He promised to call if there were any updates. And then Serena was alone. She made it to the bedroom before the tears came. Big, ugly, heaving sobs that she'd been holding back for days. She cried for the marriage that had failed, for the man who'd walked away, for the fear that still lived in her chest, for the baby who was depending on her to keep it together. And then, when the tears finally stopped, she picked up her phone. She called Adrian. He answered on the first ring. "You okay?" "No, but I'm home." "That's a start. Thank you for everything." "Stop thanking me. I can't. You saved my life." "I sent you breakfast and called a lawyer. That's not saving your life." "It is when you're drowning." Silence. Then quieter. "You're not drowning anymore." "Not yet, but I might." "Then call me. I'm a pretty good swimmer." She laughed, even though nothing was funny, even though everything was still broken. "I should let you go. You're probably tired." "Serena?" "Yeah?" "You're going to be fine. I know you don't believe me yet, but you will." She wanted to believe him, needed to believe him. "Okay," she whispered. "Get some rest. Call me tomorrow." After they hung up, Serena lay in bed and stared at the ceiling. Tomorrow she'd start rebuilding. Tomorrow she'd figure out how to be strong. Tonight, she just needed to survive. And for the first time in weeks, she thought maybe she could. The first week home was harder than she'd expected. Bed rest sounded simple enough, just lie there, watch TV, let your body heal. But in reality, it meant staring at the ceiling for hours while your mind raced through every worst-case scenario. It meant feeling useless while dishes piled up in the sink and laundry sat in hampers and the mail accumulated on the counter. It meant being alone with your thoughts in a house that still smelled like your husband's cologne. Adrian called every morning at 8, like clockwork. "You still alive?" "Barely." "Did you eat breakfast?" "Does coffee count?" "No, Elena's bringing you food in an hour." "You can't keep sending me food." "Watch me." And he did. Every day, Elena showed up with meals that were actually edible, with groceries that appeared in the fridge without Serena having to think about them, with small things that made life slightly less impossible. Tampons, toilet paper, the specific brand of crackers that helped with nausea. "How does he know what I need before I need it?" Serena asked Elena one afternoon. Elena just smiled. "Mr. Morelli is very observant. That's one word for it. He's been through hard times. He knows what it looks like when someone's drowning, and he knows how to throw a life raft without making it feel like charity." "Is that what this is? A life raft?" "What else would you call it?" Serena didn't have an answer for that. Marcus called on Wednesday with an update. Kyle had filed a counterclaim, asking for full ownership of the house, and claiming Serena had been financially irresponsible during the marriage. It was bullshit, and they both knew it, but it still stung. "He's grasping at straws," Marcus said, "which means he's worried. We've got a hearing scheduled for next month. In the meantime, don't engage with him. Don't respond to texts or calls. If he shows up at the house, call the police." "He wouldn't show up here." "You'd be surprised what desperate men do." Marcus was right. That Friday, Kyle came to the house. Serena was in the living room, lying on the couch because the bedroom had started to feel like a prison, when she heard a car in the driveway, then footsteps on the porch, then knocking. She knew it was him before she looked through the window. He was standing there in a button-down shirt and khakis, looking like he was heading to a business meeting instead of harassing his pregnant ex-wife. She almost didn't open the door, but something in her, some stubborn, angry part that refused to hide, made her unlock it. "What do you want?" "We need to talk." "My lawyer said I'm not supposed to talk to you." "Come on, Serena, can we at least be adults about this? You filed for divorce while I was in labor, and you want to talk about being adults?" Kyle's jaw tightened. "I know you're angry. Angry doesn't even begin to cover it. But if we could just sit down and work this out between us, we wouldn't need to drag lawyers into it. We could settle this quietly and both move on." "Move on?" She laughed, sharp and bitter. "You mean you want me to sign your bullshit settlement offer so you can walk away with everything and I get nothing?" "That's not what I'm asking. Then what are you asking, Kyle? Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you're trying to manipulate me into giving up my rights because you know if this goes to court, you'll lose." "You don't know that." "Actually, I do. My lawyer's pretty confident. Says you made a lot of mistakes, like draining our joint account, like serving me papers in a hospital, like offering me $5,000 for 4 years of marriage and a house I helped pay for." Kyle's face went red. "Your lawyer, right. The one Adrian Morelli hired for you." Serena went very still. "How do you know Adrian's name?" "I did some research, wanted to know who was helping my wife." He said the word wife like it still meant something, like he still had claim to her. "Do you have any idea who you're accepting help from?" "Someone who actually showed up when I needed him. He's a criminal, Serena. His family runs half the underground operations on the East Coast. Drugs, gambling, extortion. People who cross him disappear." "Is that supposed to scare me?" "It should, because whatever he's giving you, he's going to want something back. That's how men like him work. They don't do favors out of kindness. They do it to own you." Serena felt something hot and sharp in her chest. "You mean like you tried to own me? Like you convinced me to quit my job and depend on you financially so that when you decided you were done, I'd have nothing?" "That's not what happened. That's exactly what happened. And now you're mad because someone else is helping me and you can't control the situation anymore." She leaned against the doorframe, suddenly exhausted. "Adrian has been kinder to me in 2 weeks than you've been in 2 years. So whatever his past is, whatever his family does, it doesn't change the fact that he showed up and you didn't." "You're making a mistake." "Probably, but it's my mistake to make. Now get off my porch before I call the police." Kyle stared at her like he didn't recognize her. Maybe he didn't. Maybe she didn't recognize herself either. "This isn't over," he said finally. "Yeah, it is. You just haven't figured it out yet." She closed the door in his face and locked it. Then she stood there shaking, listening to him get in his car and drive away. She called Adrian immediately. "Kyle was just here." "Did he threaten you?" "No, but he knows who you are. He did research on you and he told me about your family and you're wondering if he's right, if you should be scared of me." She wanted to say no, wanted to insist that Kyle was just trying to manipulate her. But the truth was, she didn't know. Didn't know who Adrian really was or what he was capable of. "I don't know what to think," she said quietly. "That's fair." Adrian's voice was calm, steady. "You want the truth?" "Please. My father ran a family business. Not the legal kind. I grew up in that world, and when he died, I took over because someone had to, and I was the only son. I don't deal drugs, and I don't hurt innocent people, but yeah, there are parts of what I do that would land me in prison if the wrong people found out. Your ex-husband isn't wrong about that. So why are you telling me? Why not just let me believe you're a legitimate businessman? Because you deserve to know who you're accepting help from. And because I'm not going to lie to you, Serena. Not about this." She sat down on the couch, her legs suddenly too weak to hold her. "Are you dangerous?" "To people who cross me? Yes. To you? No, never." "How do I know that?" "You don't. You just have to decide whether you trust me or not." That was the question, wasn't it? Trust. She barely knew this man. Hadn't even met him until a week ago. Everything she knew about him came from phone calls and overheard conversations and the fact that he kept sending her food. But he'd also sent her a lawyer who was fighting for her. He'd called every morning to make sure she was okay. He'd told her the truth when he could have lied. Kyle had lied to her for months, maybe years, had pretended to love her while planning his exit, had promised to take care of her while draining their accounts and filing for divorce. Adrian had promised her nothing. But he'd shown up anyway. "I trust you," she said, and was surprised to find she meant it. "You sure?" "No, but I'm doing it anyway." She heard him exhale. "Thank you." "For what?" "For not running." "I'm on bed rest. Where would I run to?" He laughed, and the tension broke. "Fair point. You want me to send someone to watch the house, in case Kyle comes back?" I can handle Kyle. I know you can, but you shouldn't have to. Adrian, I appreciate everything you've done, but I can't have one of your, what would you even call them? Employees, associates, sitting outside my house. That's insane. It's practical. It's overkill. Fine, but if he shows up again, you call me immediately. Not the police, me. Why not the police? Because the police take statements and file reports, and sometimes they show up in time and sometimes they don't. I show up. Always. The certainty in his voice should have been unsettling. Instead, it was almost comforting. Okay, she said. If he shows up again, I'll call you. Good. After they hung up, Serena lay on the couch and tried to process everything. Kyle's visit, Adrian's confession, the fact that she was apparently now connected to someone whose family ran criminal operations and she wasn't running away screaming. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. You're being used. He's going to hurt you. I'm trying to protect you. Kyle. Had to be. She deleted it and blocked the number. 10 minutes later, another text from a different number. I know you're scared, but I'm still your husband. We can fix this. She blocked that one too. By the time Elena showed up with dinner, Serena had blocked 5 different numbers and was seriously considering throwing her phone out a window. You okay? Elena asked, setting bags of food on the kitchen counter. You look stressed. Kyle won't stop texting me from different numbers. Want me to handle it? How would you handle it? I have a friend who can make sure those numbers stop working. Permanently. Serena blinked. Is that legal? Probably not, but it's effective. Elena started unpacking the food. Look, I'm not saying you should do anything illegal. I'm just saying there are options if you need them. Options that involve Adrian's people. Options that involve people who are good at solving problems. Elena looked at her. Mr. Morelli doesn't make offers lightly. If he says he'll help you, he means it. And if someone's harassing you, he'll make it stop. That's just who he is. And what does he want in return? Nothing. Nobody helps people for nothing. Maybe, but I've worked for him for 8 years and I've never seen him ask for anything back. He pays well, treats people fairly, and protects the people who are loyal to him. That's it. Elena paused. You want my honest opinion? Please. I think he sees something in you that he recognizes. Someone who got screwed over and is trying to fight back. Someone who refuses to stay down even when everything's stacked against them. That's how he built his whole life. So yeah, maybe he's helping you because he sees himself in you, but that doesn't mean there's strings attached. Serena wanted to believe that. Wanted to think Adrian was just being kind without expecting anything, but she'd learned the hard way that people always wanted something. What happened to him? She asked. You said he's been through hard times. What happened? That's his story to tell, not mine. But I'll say this. He's earned every bit of power he has. Nothing was handed to him, and the fact that he's using that power to help you instead of ignoring you should tell you something. After Elena left, Serena ate her dinner and thought about power. About who had it and who didn't. Kyle had economic power over her because he'd convinced her to quit her job. He had legal power because he'd filed first and hired an expensive lawyer. He thought he had emotional power because he'd left her when she was vulnerable. But Adrian had a different kind of power. The kind that came from knowing how things worked and who to call and how to make problems disappear. And instead of using it against her, he was using it for her. She called him that night, later than usual, when the house felt too quiet and her thoughts were too loud. Can't sleep? He answered. Too much going on in my head. Want to talk about it? Kyle kept texting me from different numbers. Elena said she could make them stop. She can. You want her to? I don't know. It feels like cheating somehow. Cheating at what? At handling my own problems. Serena, there's no prize for doing everything alone. If someone offers help and you need it, take it. That's not weakness. That's survival. Is that how you survived? Taking help when you needed it? No. I refused help for years because I thought asking for it made me weak. And you know what happened? I almost died, twice. Finally figured out that the people who make it aren't the ones who do everything alone. They're the ones who build a team and trust them. Is that what you're doing? Building a team? I'm offering you a place on mine, if you want it. And what does that mean exactly? It means you don't have to fight alone anymore. It means if Kyle harasses you, we shut it down. If you need money, we find it. If you need a safe place, I provide it. No strings, no payback, just help. Why? Because you need it, and because I can give it. That's reason enough. She wanted to argue, wanted to insist she could handle everything herself, but the truth was, she couldn't. She was 32 weeks pregnant, on bed rest, fighting a divorce that was designed to leave her with nothing. She needed help, and Adrian was offering it. Okay, she said quietly. Tell Elena to make the text stop. Done. Anything else? Yeah. Can you tell me what happened to you? The thing that almost killed you twice? Long silence. She thought maybe she'd pushed too far. When I was 25, my father was murdered, Adrian said finally. Shot in the head by someone we'd trusted, someone we'd brought into the family. I took over the business, but I was young and stupid and thought I could change things, make them cleaner. I tried to cut ties with some of the more violent operations. People didn't like that. They came after me. First time was a car bomb. Missed me, but killed my driver. Second time was an ambush. Got shot 3 times. Took me 6 months to recover. Jesus, Adrian. Yeah. After that, I learned you can't do this halfway. You're either in or you're out. And if you're in, you play by the rules or you don't survive. And you're still in. I'm still in. Not because I want to be, but because walking away means someone worse takes over. At least this way, I can set limits. I don't deal drugs to kids. I don't hurt civilians. I don't traffic people. Not everyone in this business can say that. That's not exactly a ringing endorsement. No. But it's honest. And honestly, Serena, if I could do something else, I would. But I can't. This is the life I was born into and the life I'm stuck with. Best I can do is try to be better than my father was. And sometimes that means helping people who need it. She didn't know what to say. Couldn't imagine living in a world where violence was just part of the job, where getting shot was something you recovered from and then went back to work. Do you ever wish you could just be normal? She asked. Every damn day. But normal isn't an option for me. So I make the best of what I've got. That's kind of what I'm trying to do too. I know. That's why I'm helping you. Because I see you trying and I remember what it was like when I was trying and nobody helped me. I don't want that for you. Thank you, she whispered. Stop thanking me. I can't. Then at least get some sleep. Tomorrow's another day and you need rest. You sound like my doctor. Your doctor's right. Now go to bed. She smiled despite everything. Yes, sir. That's better. Good night, Serena. Good night, Adrian. The texts stopped. All of them. Whatever Elena did, it worked. And for the first time in days, Serena felt like she could breathe without waiting for her phone to buzz with another message from Kyle. Marcus called on Monday with more good news. The judge had approved temporary support payments. Kyle would have to pay Serena $2,000 a month until the divorce was finalized. It wasn't enough to live on long term, but it was something. He's furious, Marcus said, sounding pleased. His lawyer called me 3 times yesterday trying to negotiate it down. I told him to go to hell. Politely? Absolutely not. This guy's been a prick since day one. I'm done being polite. Serena couldn't help but smile. Thank you, Marcus. Don't thank me yet. The real fight's still ahead. But we're in a good position. Kyle's making mistakes, and we're capitalizing on them. That afternoon, Serena got a call from a number she didn't recognize. She almost didn't answer, but something made her pick up. Ms. Hale? A woman's voice. Professional? Clipped. Yes? My name is Victoria Morelli. I'm Adrian's sister. I was hoping we could meet. Serena's stomach dropped. Meet? Why? Because my brother has taken an interest in you, and I want to understand why. I don't think that's any of your business. When it comes to my family, everything is my business. Victoria's tone was polite, but there was steel underneath. I'm not trying to intimidate you, Ms. Hale. I just want to talk. There's a coffee shop on 5th Street. Can you meet me there tomorrow at 2? I'm on bed rest. I'm not supposed to leave the house. Then I'll come to you. What's your address? Serena didn't want to give it to her, didn't want Adrian's family showing up at her door, but something told her that Victoria would find out anyway, and it was better to agree than to make an enemy. She gave the address. I'll see you tomorrow at 2, Victoria said and hung up. Serena immediately called Adrian. Your sister just called me. Shit. She wants to meet tomorrow. Says she wants to understand why you've taken an interest in me. Don't meet with her. She's coming here whether I agree or not. What does she want, Adrian? He was quiet for a long moment. Victoria runs the financial side of the family business. She's smart, ruthless, and extremely protective. She probably thinks you're either using me or you're a liability. And which am I? Neither, but she doesn't know that yet. So what do I do? Tell her the truth. Don't try to impress her or intimidate her or play games. Just tell her what happened and let her draw her own conclusions. And if she decides I'm a problem, she won't. How do you know? Because Victoria's smart enough to see when someone's genuine, and you are, Serena. You're not trying to play me or use me or get something from me. You're just trying to survive. She'll respect that. I'm not sure I believe you. Then trust me anyway. The next day, Victoria Morelli arrived exactly at 2 o'clock. She was younger than Serena expected, maybe mid-30s, and beautiful in a sharp, expensive way. Designer clothes, perfect hair, the kind of woman who looked like she'd never had a bad day in her life. "Ms. Hale," she said, extending a hand, "thank you for agreeing to meet." "I didn't really have a choice," Victoria smiled. "No, you didn't. May I come in?" Serena led her to the living room, and they sat across from each other, Victoria on the armchair and Serena on the couch, where she'd been spending most of her time. "I'll get right to the point," Victoria said. "My brother doesn't help people. Not like this. He's generous with the family, and he's fair with business associates, but he doesn't get personally involved with strangers. And yet here you are. He's paying for your lawyer, sending you food, calling you every day, so I want to know why." "I don't know why. You'd have to ask him." "I'm asking you, what are you giving him in return?" "Nothing. I don't believe you." "I don't care if you believe me. It's the truth. I met your brother in a hospital when my husband was serving me divorce papers. We talked through a wall and he decided to help me. That's it." Victoria studied her. "You're pregnant." "Obviously. High-risk pregnancy." "Yes." "And your husband left you when you were in labor." "Adrian told you." "He tells me everything, eventually." Victoria crossed her legs. "What do you want from him?" "Nothing. I already told you that." "Everyone wants something." "Not from Adrian. He offered help and I took it because I needed it, but I'm not expecting anything beyond that." "And when the baby comes, when you need more help, more money, more support, what then?" "Then I'll figure it out like everyone else does. I'm not trying to trap your brother or manipulate him or whatever you think I'm doing. I'm just trying to get through my pregnancy and my divorce without losing my mind." Victoria was quiet for a long moment. Then she leaned back in her chair and said, "I believe you." "Really? My brother is a good judge of character. If he thinks you're worth helping, you probably are. But I needed to see for myself." She stood up. "A word of advice, Ms. Hale. My family is complicated. We have enemies. And if those enemies find out Adrian cares about you, they'll try to use you against him. So be careful. Watch your back. And if anything feels wrong, you call him immediately." "He already told me that." "Good. Then he's taking this seriously." Victoria walked to the door, then paused. "One more thing. If you hurt him, if you use him or betray him or sell him out, I will make your life hell. Not because I'm cruel, but because he's my brother and I protect what's mine. Understand? I'm not going to hurt him. See that you don't." After she left, Serena sat on the couch for a long time, trying to process what had just happened. Adrian's sister had come to her house to vet her, to make sure she wasn't a threat or a con artist or a problem, and apparently she'd passed some kind of test. She called Adrian. "Your sister is terrifying. She likes you." "How can you possibly know that?" "Because if she didn't, you'd know it, trust me. She threatened me. That's how she shows affection." Serena laughed despite herself. "Your family is insane. Tell me about it. But hey, you survived Victoria. That's not nothing. What happens now?" "Now you keep doing what you're doing. Stay healthy, take care of yourself, let Marcus handle the divorce, and stop worrying about my family. They're my problem, not yours. Adrian, if your enemies come after me, they won't. I'll make sure of it." "How?" "By making it very clear that anyone who touches you answers to me. And trust me, nobody wants that." The certainty in his voice should have scared her. Instead, she felt safe. Protected. Like for the first time in months, someone actually had her back. "Thank you," she said quietly. "You're welcome. Now go rest. Doctor's orders." "You're not my doctor." No, but I'm bossy enough to be one. She smiled. Yeah, you are. That night, lying in bed with her hand on her stomach, Serena felt the baby move. Strong kicks. Persistent. Like Maya was reminding her that she was still there, still fighting, still holding on. We're going to be okay, Serena whispered. I don't know how yet, but we're going to be okay. And for the first time, she actually believed it. 2 weeks passed in a strange rhythm of waiting and healing. Serena's body slowly adjusted to the bed rest, to the medications, to the constant monitoring. She made it to 34 weeks, then 35. Every day felt like a small victory. Adrian called less frequently now, not because he'd lost interest, but because he'd been pulled back into his world. Business that required his attention, problems that needed solving, things he couldn't explain over the phone. But Elena still came by daily, and Victoria checked in twice a week with questions that felt more like interrogations disguised as concern. How are you feeling? Fine. Blood pressure? Stable. You need anything? No. Victoria would nod, satisfied, and then leave. It was the strangest friendship Serena had ever had, if it even qualified as friendship. More like a wary alliance between two women who respected each other but didn't entirely trust each other yet. Marcus called on a Thursday with news that made Serena's chest tight. Kyle wants to settle. His lawyer reached out this morning. What's he offering? $60,000 cash. You keep the car. He keeps the house. Split any remaining joint assets 50-50. That's way better than before. It's still not enough. The house is worth $300,000 and you helped pay the down payment. You're entitled to at least half the equity. I told his lawyer to come back with a real offer, or we'll see him in court. Marcus, I don't know if I can go to court. The baby could come any day, and then we'll handle it without you if we have to. But you're not taking a bad deal just because you're scared. This guy screwed you over, Serena. Let me make him pay for it. After he hung up, Serena sat there feeling the weight of everything, the divorce, the baby, the fact that her entire future was being negotiated by lawyers while she lay on a couch trying not to go into premature labor. She called Adrian without thinking. Hey, he answered. Background noise, voices. He was somewhere busy. Bad time. No, hold on. The noise faded, a door closing. Okay, what's wrong? Kyle wants to settle. Marcus says it's not enough, but I'm tired of fighting. I just want this over. How much is he offering? $60,000 in the car. And the house? He keeps it. Adrian was quiet for a moment. That's bullshit. The house is worth way more than $60,000. I know, but going to court means more time, more stress, more lawyers' fees. Serena, you don't pay Marcus until you get the settlement, and when you do, it'll be enough to cover his fees and still have money left over. Don't take the easy way out just because you're tired. Easy? Her voice cracked. None of this has been easy. I'm lying here waiting for my daughter to be born while my ex-husband tries to steal my house, and your family vets me like I'm applying for a job. I'm exhausted, Adrian. I just want it to stop. I know, but if you take this deal, you'll regret it. You'll spend the next 10 years wishing you'd fought harder. How do you know? Because I've seen it happen. People get worn down and they settle for less than they deserve, and then they wake up one day and realize they got screwed. Don't be that person. She wanted to argue, but she knew he was right. Taking $60,000 when she was owed more wasn't smart. It was just exhaustion talking. Okay, she said quietly. I'll tell Marcus to keep fighting. Good. And Serena? Yeah? You're doing better than you think. I know it doesn't feel like it, but you are. I don't feel like I'm doing anything except lying here and waiting. Sometimes that's the fight, just surviving, just making it to the next day. After they hung up, she called Marcus and told him to reject the offer. He sounded pleased. That's what I like to hear. We'll counteroffer at $120 and see what happens. $120,000? Plus the car and half the retirement accounts. If he balks, we go to court. But my guess is he'll cave. He doesn't want this dragged out any more than you do. That night, Serena lay in bed and felt the baby shift inside her. Maya was running out of room, her movements less like kicks and more like slow rolls. It wouldn't be long now. She was 36 weeks. Technically full term for a baby, though the doctors wanted her to make it to 37 if possible. Every day mattered. Every hour. Her phone buzzed. A text from Adrian. You asleep? Not yet. Can I ask you something? Sure. What are you going to do after? When the baby's born and the divorce is finalized and you're back on your feet? She stared at the question. She hadn't thought that far ahead. Hadn't let herself imagine a future beyond just surviving the present. I don't know. Find a job, I guess. Figure out childcare. Try to rebuild. You ever think about doing something different? Something that's just yours? Like what? I don't know. You tell me. What did you want to be before you married Kyle and put your life on hold? She had to think about that. Before Kyle, she'd worked in marketing for a small firm. It had been fine. Boring, but stable. She'd never loved it, but it paid the bills. I used to want to open a bookstore. Stupid, I know. Why is that stupid? Because bookstores don't make money. Everyone buys online now. So make it more than a bookstore. Coffee shop, event space, community hub. Make it the kind of place people want to spend time in. That would take capital I don't have. You'll have a settlement. And if you need more, I know people who invest in small businesses. Adrian, I can't take more money from you. I'm not offering you money. I'm offering you connections. There's a difference. She didn't know what to say to that. The idea of actually doing something she wanted, something that was hers, felt impossible, like a fantasy she wasn't allowed to have. Let me think about it. Take all the time you need. Just don't write it off before you've even tried. She fell asleep thinking about bookstores and coffee shops and spaces filled with people and stories. It was the first dream she'd had in months that wasn't a nightmare. The next morning, everything changed. Serena woke up at 6 to a wetness between her legs. Not a lot. Just enough to make her sit up and check. Clear fluid, odorless. Her water had broken. No, she whispered. Not yet. It's too soon. But her body didn't care what she thought. Within 20 minutes, contractions started. Mild at first, just tightness and pressure. Then stronger. Then painful enough that she couldn't breathe through them. She called Dr. Reeves. My water broke. How far apart are the contractions? I don't know. Maybe 10 minutes? Get to the hospital, now. Don't drive yourself. Call someone. She hung up and immediately called Adrian. I need help. What's wrong? The baby's coming. My water broke and I need to get to the hospital and I can't drive and I'm sending someone. Stay calm. Pack a bag. They'll be there in 10 minutes. Okay. Serena? Yeah? Breathe. You're going to be fine. She wanted to believe him, but panic was setting in, cold and sharp. 36 weeks. The baby was early. Not dangerously early, but early enough that there could be complications. Breathing problems. Feeding issues. NICU time. She threw clothes into a bag with shaking hands. Underwear. Pajamas. A going-home outfit for the baby that she'd bought months ago when she still thought Kyle would be there for this. A black SUV pulled up exactly 9 minutes later. The driver was a man in his 40s, broad-shouldered and calm. Miss Hale, I'm Thomas. Mr. Morelli sent me. Let's get you to the hospital. He helped her into the back seat and drove fast but smooth, navigating traffic like he'd done this 100 times. Maybe he had. Serena didn't ask. Another contraction hit and she doubled over, gasping. You're doing great, Thomas said, glancing at her in the rear-view mirror. We're 5 minutes out. They made it to the hospital in 4. Thomas pulled up to the emergency entrance and had someone bring a wheelchair before Serena could even get out of the car. I'll park and meet you inside, he said. Mr. Morelli's on his way. He doesn't have to come. He's coming anyway. They wheeled her up to labor and delivery. Brenda was there, thank God, the same nurse from weeks ago. Well, look who's back, Brenda said, her voice warm and steady. Let's get you checked in and see where we're at. They got her into a room, into a gown, hooked up to monitors. Dr. Reeves came in looking calm and efficient. Okay, let's see how dilated you are. She checked, then nodded. 5 centimeters. You're definitely having this baby today. Is she going to be okay? 36 weeks is good. We'll monitor her closely, might need some help with breathing initially, but odds are she'll be just fine. Dr. Reeves squeezed her hand. You've done everything right, Serena. You got her this far. Now let's bring her into the world. The next few hours were a blur of pain and breathing and Brenda's voice telling her when to push and when to rest. She'd thought about this moment for months. Imagined Kyle being here, holding her hand, telling her she was doing great. But Kyle wasn't here. Kyle was probably at work, probably didn't even know this was happening. And she realized, somewhere between contractions, that she didn't care. She didn't need him, didn't want him here. She wanted Serena? Adrian's voice. She looked up and there he was, standing in the doorway, looking completely out of place in a hospital gown that visitors had to wear. Can I come in? You came. Of course I came. He walked over and took her hand. How are you doing? It hurts like hell. Yeah, I bet. You need anything? Just don't leave. I'm not going anywhere. And he didn't. He stayed through every contraction, let her squeeze his hand hard enough that his knuckles went white, told her she was doing great even when she screamed at him that he had no idea what he was talking about. Dr. Reeves came back around noon. Okay, Serena, you're at 10 centimeters. It's time. Next contraction, I need you to push. Serena pushed and pushed and pushed until she thought she'd split apart. Adrian never let go of her hand, never flinched even when she dug her nails into his palm. And then, at 12:43 in the afternoon, Maya Hale came into the world. She was tiny, red and wrinkled and screaming her head off. The most beautiful sound Serena had ever heard. She's perfect, Dr. Reeves said, placing the baby on Serena's chest. Good lungs, good color. We'll check her over in a minute, but she looks great. Serena looked down at her daughter, at this tiny person she'd been carrying for 8 months, and felt something crack open in her chest. Love. Pure and overwhelming and terrifying. Hi, Maya, she whispered. I'm your mom. The baby stopped crying, just for a moment, like she recognized the voice. They took Maya after a few minutes to check her vitals, clean her up, make sure everything was working the way it should. Adrian stayed with Serena while they stitched her up, while Brenda cleaned her and got her into a clean gown. You did good, Adrian said quietly. I screamed at you. I've been shot. I can handle some screaming. She laughed, exhausted and shaky. Thank you for being here. Where else would I be? Brenda brought Maya back 20 minutes later, wrapped in a pink blanket and wearing a tiny hat. 5 pounds, 8 ounces, Brenda said. A little small, but healthy. She might need some extra monitoring, but so far everything looks good. Serena held her daughter and felt like her heart might actually burst. This was real. Maya was real. And she was here and safe and perfect. Adrian stood by the bed looking at the baby with an expression Serena couldn't quite read. Wonder, maybe. Or something softer. You want to hold her? Serena asked. I've never held a baby. First time for everything. He sat down carefully and Serena placed Maya in his arms. He looked terrified for about half a second. Then his face softened in a way she'd never seen before. Hey, kid, he said quietly. Welcome to the world. Maya yawned, her tiny mouth opening wide, and Adrian smiled. Actually smiled. Not the careful, controlled expression he usually wore, but something real and unguarded. She's perfect, he said. Yeah, she is. They sat like that for a while, the three of them, in a hospital room that smelled like antiseptic and new beginnings. Serena should have been thinking about the future, about all the practical things she'd need to figure out. But right now, she just wanted to exist in this moment, the one where her daughter was safe and healthy and being held by someone who'd become more important to her than she wanted to admit. A knock on the door. Thomas poked his head in. Sorry to interrupt, but there's someone here to see you. Says his name is Kyle. Serena's whole body went rigid. What? Your ex-husband. He's in the waiting room. Says he has a right to see his daughter. No. The word came out sharp and certain. He doesn't get to be here. You want me to have security remove him? Thomas asked. Yes. Serena, are you sure? Adrian said quietly. He is her father. He signed away any right to be her father when he handed me divorce papers while I was in labor. I don't care what the law says. He doesn't get to waltz in here and pretend to be a parent after everything he's done. She looked at Thomas. Tell him to leave, and if he doesn't, call security. Thomas nodded and disappeared. Adrian handed Maya back to Serena. You okay? No, but I will be. She looked down at her daughter. He doesn't get to ruin this. This is ours. Mine and hers. Damn right it is. 10 minutes later, Thomas came back. He left, but he wasn't happy about it. Said he'd be filing for custody. Let him try, Serena said. Marcus will bury him. The rest of the day passed in a haze of visitors and tests and trying to figure out how to breastfeed. Maya latched after a few tries, which the nurses said was good. Dr. Reeves checked on them both and seemed satisfied with their progress. Victoria showed up around 6, carrying a gift bag that probably cost more than Serena's hospital bill. I heard you had the baby, she said, walking in like she owned the place. Can I see her? Serena gestured to the bassinet next to the bed. Victoria looked down at Maya, and her entire face softened. She's beautiful. Thank you. Adrian said you told your ex-husband to leave. I did. Good. He doesn't deserve to be here. Victoria set the gift bag on the table. That's from me and the family. Clothes mostly, some toys. I didn't know what you needed. You didn't have to do that. I wanted to. Victoria pulled up a chair. I know we got off on the wrong foot, but I want you to know you're under our protection now. Anyone who comes after you answers to us. That includes your ex-husband. Victoria, I appreciate the sentiment, but I can't ask you to. You're not asking. I'm offering. And before you say no, think about what's best for your daughter. You want her growing up safe, or you want her caught in the middle of whatever Kyle decides to pull next? Serena looked at Maya, sleeping peacefully in her bassinet. Victoria was right. She hated that she was right, but she was. Okay, Serena said quietly. Thank you. Don't thank me. Just keep being good to my brother. He doesn't let people in easily, and the fact that he let you in means something. After Victoria left, Elena came by with food that was actually edible. Then Marcus called with an update. Kyle's lawyer had filed an emergency custody petition claiming Serena was emotionally unstable and had prevented him from seeing his daughter. It's bullshit, and we'll fight it, Marcus said. But be prepared. This is going to get ugly. Let it get ugly. I'm not backing down. That night, after all the visitors had left and Maya was asleep, Serena lay in the hospital bed and tried to process everything. Her daughter was here, healthy, safe. Kyle was trying to take her away. And Adrian had stayed all day, had held her hand through labor, had held her daughter like she was something precious, had looked at Serena with an expression that made her chest ache. She didn't know what they were to each other. Friends didn't feel like the right word. Neither did anything else. They existed in some undefined space between strangers and something more. Her phone buzzed, a text from Adrian. You still awake? Yeah, how's Maya? Perfect, sleeping. And you? Tired but okay, Kyle's going to keep fighting. I know, you ready for that? She thought about it. About the custody petition, about the divorce settlement, about all the battles still ahead. I don't know if I'm ready, but I don't have a choice. Yes, you do. You can settle. Take what he's offering and walk away. Is that what you think I should do? No. I think you should fight. But I also think you should know what you're getting into. I know what I'm getting into, and I'm doing it anyway. That's what I was hoping you'd say. Adrian? Yeah? Thank you for today, for being there. You didn't have to do that. Yes, I did. Why? Long pause. She watched the dots appear and disappear, like he was typing and deleting and typing again. Because I care about you. And Maya. And I wanted to be there. Her breath caught. She stared at the text for a long time, trying to figure out how to respond, what to say, what she even felt. I care about you too. It was the simplest truth she had. Not the whole truth. That was too complicated, too big, too scary to name yet. But it was enough. Get some rest. I'll come by tomorrow. You don't have to. I know. I'm coming anyway. She fell asleep with her phone in her hand and Maya in the bassinet next to her. And for the first time in months, she didn't dream about losing everything. She dreamed about building something new. The next morning, Dr. Reeves discharged them both. Maya had passed all her tests and Serena was recovering well. They were free to go home. Thomas drove them, Adrian in the passenger seat. He'd brought the car seat, one that Elena had apparently purchased and installed while Serena was in labor. You didn't have to do this, Serena said as they pulled out of the hospital parking lot. Yeah, I did, Adrian said. You can't leave a hospital with a newborn without a car seat. It's illegal. I would have figured it out. I know, but you didn't have to. They drove in silence for a while. Maya sleeping in her car seat, Serena staring out the window at a world that looked exactly the same but felt completely different. When they pulled up to the house, Kyle's car was in the driveway. "What the hell is he doing here?" Serena said. "Stay in the car," Adrian said, already getting out. "Adrian, don't—" But he was already walking toward the house, toward Kyle, who was sitting on the porch steps like he had every right to be there. Serena watched through the car window, her heart pounding. Adrian said something to Kyle. Kyle stood up, his face red. He said something back. Adrian took a step closer. Whatever Adrian said next made Kyle go pale. He nodded once, then walked to his car without looking back. He drove away, tires squealing slightly on the asphalt. Adrian came back to the car. "What did you say to him?" "That if he ever showed up here uninvited again, he'd regret it." "Adrian, he's not going to bother you anymore, trust me." She wanted to argue, wanted to tell him he couldn't threaten her ex-husband, but she was too tired and too relieved. "Thank you," she said quietly. "Let's get you inside." He carried Maya in the car seat while Thomas helped Serena out of the SUV. Her body ached everywhere, moving hurt, but she made it into the house and onto the couch. Adrian set Maya down carefully, still in the car seat because she was sleeping, and none of them wanted to wake her. "You need anything?" he asked. "Sleep, food, a time machine so I can go back and not marry Kyle." "Fresh out of time machines, but I can handle the first two." He stayed for an hour, making sure she had everything she needed. Food in the fridge, diapers stocked, phone chargers. Then he left, promising to check in tomorrow. Serena sat on the couch, holding her sleeping daughter, and thought about everything that had happened in the last month. The divorce papers, the hospital, Adrian's voice through the wall, Marcus and Victoria and Elena and Thomas, and all these people who'd shown up when she had no one. She'd thought her life was ending, thought the worst day had finally broken her. But maybe it hadn't broken her. Maybe it had just broken her open. The first week home with Maya was chaos. Not the dramatic kind, just the exhausting reality of a newborn who needed to eat every 2 hours and didn't care whether it was day or night. Serena moved through it in a fog of sleep deprivation and hormones, her body aching, her mind too tired to process anything beyond the immediate needs of feeding and changing and trying to remember when she'd last showered. Elena came by daily with food and supplies. She'd hold Maya while Serena took a shower or ate something that required both hands. She never stayed long, never overstayed her usefulness, just provided exactly what was needed and then left. Adrian called every morning, but he didn't visit. Serena told herself she didn't mind, that he was busy with his own life and she couldn't expect him to keep showing up. But part of her, the part that remembered him holding Maya in the hospital, the part that had felt safe when he was there, missed him more than she wanted to admit. On day 8, Marcus called with news. Kyle's lawyer reached out. They want to settle everything, divorce and custody. What are they offering? Full divorce settlement at $100,000. You keep the car and half the retirement accounts. Joint custody of Maya with you as primary custodial parent, him getting her every other weekend and one evening a week once she's old enough. Serena's chest tightened. He wants custody? He's entitled to it legally. He's her father. Unless there's proof he's unfit or dangerous, a judge will grant him some form of access. He left me while I was in labor, Marcus. He showed up at the hospital just to cause problems. He doesn't actually want to be a father. He wants control. I know, but that's hard to prove. We can fight it, drag it out, but eventually he'll get something. The question is whether you want to spend the next year in court or settle it now on terms that at least favor you. She looked at Maya, sleeping in the bassinet next to the couch. Every other weekend, one evening a week, handing her daughter over to a man who'd already proven he'd walk away when things got hard. I need to think about it. Take your time. But Serena, this is a good offer. Better than what we'd get in court. If you push for supervised visits or limited custody, you'll need to prove he's a danger, and right now we don't have that evidence. After he hung up, Serena called Adrian. Kyle wants joint custody. What did Marcus say? That it's a good offer, that fighting it would be expensive and I'd probably lose anyway. And what do you think? I think I hate that he gets to have her at all after what he did, but I also think... She stopped, swallowing hard. I think maybe it's not about what I want. It's about what's best for Maya. And if he actually shows up and tries to be a father, maybe she deserves that chance, even if he doesn't deserve her. Adrian was quiet for a long moment. That's the hardest part of being a parent, putting what's best for them ahead of what you want, even when it kills you. You sound like you know from experience. My father wasn't great, but my mother made sure he was in my life anyway because she thought I needed a father, even a shitty one. I spent years resenting her for it. But looking back, I think she was right. I needed to see who he really was so I could choose to be different. What if Kyle disappoints her? What if he walks away again? Then you'll be there to pick up the pieces. That's what you do. You show up. You stay. You prove that not everyone leaves. She closed her eyes, fighting tears. I'm scared. I know, but you're also strong enough to handle it. How do you know? Because you've been handling impossible things for months and you're still standing. That's not luck, Serena. That's strength. She told Marcus the next day that she'd accept the settlement. All of it. The money, the custody arrangement, everything. She just wanted it done. The paperwork took 2 weeks to finalize. 2 weeks of signing documents and answering questions and trying not to think too hard about what it all meant. In the middle of it, Adrian finally came by to visit. It was late afternoon. Maya was awake but calm, and Serena was on the couch wearing sweatpants and a milk-stained t-shirt, because that was her life now. You look tired, Adrian said when she opened the door. Thanks. Really know how to flatter a woman. I meant it as an observation, not an insult. I'm aware. Come in before I fall asleep standing up. He followed her inside and immediately went to Maya, who was lying in her bassinet, staring at nothing in particular with that unfocused newborn gaze. She got bigger. 2 weeks will do that. She's eating like she's training for a competition. Adrian smiled and reached down to touch Maya's tiny hand. She grabbed his finger instinctively and held on. She's strong. She gets it from her mother, Serena snorted. I'm barely holding it together. That's what strength looks like sometimes. Barely holding it together, but still doing it anyway. He looked at her. You signed the papers? Yesterday. It's done. I'm officially single and $100,000 richer. Well, $90,000 after Marcus's fees. That's still good money. What are you going to do with it? Save most of it. Use some to get through the next year until I can go back to work. Maybe put some aside for Maya's college fund. What about the bookstore? She'd almost forgotten about that conversation. The dream she'd admitted in a moment of exhaustion and honesty. That was just talk. I can't open a bookstore with a newborn. Why not? Because it's insane. Because I don't know the first thing about running a business. Because you're scared. Yes, I'm scared. Is that what you want to hear? No, I want to hear that you're going to try anyway. She looked at him, at this man who'd become something she couldn't quite name, and felt frustration and affection and exhaustion all tangled together. Why do you care so much about whether I open a bookstore? Because you deserve something that's yours. Something Kyle didn't touch. Something you build from the ground up. He paused. And because I've spent my whole life in a business I inherited, doing things I'm good at but don't love, and I don't want that for you. I want you to have something you actually care about. What would you do if you could do anything? He was quiet for a long time. I don't know. Maybe something normal. Coach a little league team or teach kids how to fix cars or just be someone who doesn't have to watch his back every time he leaves the house. Why don't you? Because it's not that simple. I can't just walk away from my family's business. People depend on me. And if I leave, someone worse takes over. That sounds like a prison. It is, but it's the prison I chose. He looked at Maya again. Don't choose a prison, Serena. Choose something that makes you happy. Even if it's hard. Even if it's scary. After he left, she sat with those words for a long time. Don't choose a prison. She thought about her marriage to Kyle, how she'd slowly given up pieces of herself until she didn't recognize who she'd become. She thought about the job she'd never loved, the life she'd built that had never really felt like hers. And she thought about the bookstore, about what it could be, about building something from nothing, something that belonged to her and Maya. It was insane, completely insane. But maybe insane was what she needed. She called Adrian that night after Maya fell asleep. I want to do it, the bookstore, but I need help. I don't know anything about business plans or permits or any of it. Then we'll figure it out together. Adrian, you don't have time to... I'm making time. Email me tomorrow and we'll start working on a plan. Why are you doing this? Because someone should have helped me when I was trying to figure out my life. And because watching you rebuild yours reminds me that starting over is possible, even when you think it's not. Over the next month, they built a business plan. Adrian connected her with people who knew about retail spaces and inventory and permits. Victoria helped with the financial projections and pointed out holes in their assumptions. Elena offered to help with the design and layout once they found a location. It was slow work, squeezed into the gaps between feeding Maya and changing diapers, and the million other things that came with having a newborn. But it was hers. Every decision, every choice, every small step forward. Kyle's first custody visit happened 6 weeks after Maya was born. Serena's lawyer had negotiated that he could have supervised visits until Maya was 3 months old. Then they'd transition to the every other weekend arrangement. Serena met him at a neutral location, a family center that specialized in supervised visitation. She handed Maya over to the supervisor, not to Kyle, and tried not to throw up. 2 hours, the supervisor said gently. We'll take good care of her. Serena went to a coffee shop across the street and sat there staring at her phone, waiting for a call that something had gone wrong. Adrian had offered to come with her, but she'd said no. This was something she needed to do alone. The 2 hours felt like 2 days. When she finally got Maya back, the baby was sleeping peacefully, and the supervisor said Kyle had done fine. Awkward, but trying. He'll get better with practice, the supervisor said. Serena nodded and took her daughter and left before Kyle could try to talk to her. In the car, she called Adrian. How did it go? She survived. I survived. I guess that's all that matters. You did good. I didn't do anything except panic for 2 hours. You let her go, even though it hurt. That's doing something. She drove home and tried to believe him. The custody visits became routine over the next few weeks. Every Saturday, 2 hours, supervised. Kyle showed up on time and did his best. It wasn't great. He was stiff and uncertain and clearly had no idea what to do with an infant. But he was there. That counted for something, even if Serena hated admitting it. The bookstore planning picked up speed. They found a location, a corner space in a neighborhood that was gentrifying, but not quite there yet. High foot traffic, decent rent, space for the coffee counter Adrian insisted would make the difference between profitable and struggling. You're sure about this? Serena asked, standing in the empty space with Maya strapped to her chest in a carrier. It's a lot of money. It's an investment, and I believe in it. More importantly, I believe in you. She looked around the space, imagining shelves full of books, comfortable chairs, the smell of coffee, people reading and talking and existing in a space she'd created. Okay, she said, let's do it. They signed the lease that week. Serena used $40,000 of her settlement money for the deposit and first 6 months of rent and initial inventory. It was terrifying and exhilarating, and the first time in her life she'd made a decision this big that was entirely hers. Adrian was there for all of it, not doing it for her, but walking beside her, pointing out things she'd missed, connecting her with people who could help. And somewhere in the middle of choosing paint colors and arguing about the coffee menu, something shifted between them. It was small at first, a hand on the small of her back as he guided her through a doorway. The way he looked at her when she was holding Maya, like they were both something precious. The night he stayed late helping her assemble bookshelves, and they ordered pizza and sat on the floor of the empty store talking about everything and nothing until 2 a.m. I should go, he said finally, but he didn't move. Yeah, Serena said, but she didn't want him to. They looked at each other across the scattered tools and half-assembled furniture. Serena, I know. You don't know what I was going to say. I know it's complicated. I know the timing is terrible. I know I have a 2-month-old baby and I'm barely divorced, and you have a life that comes with danger and violence and things I don't understand. I know all of that. Then you know why we shouldn't do this. Do what? Whatever this is. Whatever it's becoming. She stood up, her legs stiff from sitting too long. You're right. We shouldn't. It's a bad idea for about 100 different reasons. So we agree. Yeah, we agree. He stood up too, started gathering his jacket and his phone. I should go. You already said that. I meant it this time. He walked to the door, put his hand on the handle, stopped. Fuck it, he said. and turned around and crossed the space between them in 3 steps. He kissed her. Not gently, not tentatively, but like he'd been holding back for months and couldn't do it anymore. She kissed him back with the same desperate certainty, her hands in his hair, his arms around her waist, both of them breathing hard when they finally broke apart. "That was a bad idea," she said. "Terrible idea. We shouldn't do it again." "Definitely not." He kissed her again. They ended up on the couch in what would eventually be the reading area, tangled together in a way that felt both inevitable and impossible. When they finally stopped, reluctantly, breathlessly, Serena rested her forehead against his. "What are we doing?" "I have no idea. This is complicated." "Yeah. And probably a mistake." "Probably. But I don't want to stop." "Me neither." They sat there in the quiet store holding each other, trying to figure out what came next. "I can't promise you easy," Adrian said finally. "My life is messy and dangerous, and there are parts of it I can't change." "I'm not asking for easy. I'm asking for honest." "I can do honest." He pulled back to look at her. "I care about you. More than I should, probably. And I care about Maya. And if we do this, if we really do this, I'm all in. But you need to understand what that means. My enemies become your enemies. My problems become your problems. And I can't guarantee your safety or Maya's safety no matter how hard I try." "I know. And you're okay with that?" She thought about it. Really thought about it. About the risks and the complications and all the reasons this was a terrible idea. But she also thought about the way he'd shown up when no one else had. The way he'd held her hand through labor. The way he looked at her daughter like she mattered. The way he'd helped her rebuild her life without trying to control it. "I'm okay with it," she said, "as long as you understand that I'm not some damsel who needs rescuing. I'm a single mother with a bookstore to open and an ex-husband to manage and a life that's already complicated without adding your family drama to it. So if we do this, we do it as equals. You don't get to protect me from everything or make decisions for me or treat me like I'm fragile." "Deal." "I'm serious, Adrian. I spent 4 years in a marriage where I didn't have a voice. I'm not doing that again." "I don't want you to. I want you exactly as you are. Stubborn and strong and unwilling to back down even when you probably should." She smiled despite herself. "You make me sound difficult." "You are difficult. That's one of the things I love about you." The word hung in the air between them. Love. He'd said it casually, almost like he hadn't meant to, but it was there now, and neither of them could take it back. "Did you just—" "Yeah, I did, and I'm not taking it back." "Adrian, you don't have to say it back. I'm not expecting that. I just need you to know that this isn't casual for me. It's not some fling or distraction. When I say I'm all in, I mean it." She looked at him, at this man who'd walked into her life through a hospital wall and refused to leave even when things got hard. And she realized something she'd been trying not to admit for weeks. "I love you too," she said quietly. "I don't know when it happened or how, but I do, and it terrifies me." "Good. It should. Love is terrifying." He kissed her forehead. "But we'll figure it out, together." The bookstore opened 3 months later. Chapter 2 was the name Serena chose, because it felt right. A new chapter. A fresh start. A story that was entirely hers. The opening was small, just friends and neighbors, and a few people from Adrian's world who Victoria insisted needed to show their support. Maya was there in her carrier, sleeping through most of it, occasionally waking up to cry and remind everyone that Serena was doing all of this while raising an infant alone. Except she wasn't alone anymore. Not really. Adrian was there, helping set up chairs and making sure the coffee machine worked. Victoria was there with a massive flower arrangement that probably cost more than the entire inventory. Elena was there taking photos and posting them on social media to drum up interest. Even Marcus showed up with a bottle of champagne and a toast about new beginnings. And Kyle wasn't there. He'd sent a check for $200 with a card that said, "Congratulations," like they were acquaintances instead of people who'd once promised to spend their lives together. Serena deposited the check and threw away the card and didn't think about him again that day. The store did well. Not great at first, but steady. People came for the coffee and stayed for the books. They hosted readings and book clubs and open mic nights. Slowly, it became what Serena had imagined, a space where people gathered, where stories lived, where community happened. Kyle's custody visits continued, every other weekend, one evening a week. He was better with Maya now, more comfortable, though Serena could tell he was doing it more out of obligation than genuine desire. But Maya seemed to enjoy the visits, at least as much as a 6-month-old could enjoy anything, and that was enough. Adrian and Serena found a rhythm. He couldn't always be there. His business demanded attention. His family required his presence. His world didn't stop just because he'd fallen in love, but he showed up when it mattered. For Maya's first laugh. For the day the bookstore finally turned a profit. For the night Serena had a panic attack because Kyle's lawyer had filed a motion to reduce child support, and she thought she might lose everything again. "You're not losing anything," Adrian said, holding her while she cried. "He's grasping at straws because he hates that you're doing well without him. We'll fight it, and we'll win." They did. The motion was denied, and slowly Kyle stopped fighting, stopped trying to control things. He showed up for his visits, paid his child support, and otherwise stayed out of Serena's life. It wasn't friendship, and it never would be, but it was peaceful. And peace, after everything, felt like victory. 1 year after Maya was born, Serena sat in the bookstore after closing, balancing the books and thinking about how much had changed. A year ago, she'd been lying in a hospital bed being handed divorce papers. A year ago, she'd had nothing, no job, no money, no plan, no hope. Now she had a daughter who was healthy and strong, a business that was succeeding beyond her expectations, a man who loved her without trying to change her, a life that was entirely, completely, beautifully hers. Adrian came in through the back door, carrying takeout from the Thai place down the street. "You're still here? I thought you were closing early today." "Got caught up in the quarterly reports. We're up 18% from last quarter." "That's great." He set the food on the counter and pulled her into a hug. "You did this. You built this." "We built this." "No, I helped. But this is yours. Don't diminish that." She leaned into him, exhausted but content. "Thank you." "For what?" "For not walking away. For showing up. For reminding me that people can be good even when they've done bad things." "You're welcome. Though I'm pretty sure you did the same for me." They ate dinner sitting on the floor of the bookstore, talking about everything and nothing. About Victoria's latest scheme to expand the family business into legitimate enterprises. About Maya's first birthday party next week. About the fact that Serena's lease was up on the house, and maybe it was time to find something new. Something that didn't carry memories of Kyle. "Move in with me," Adrian said suddenly. Serena stopped mid-bite. "What?" "Move in with me. You and Maya. My place is bigger, safer, and I'm tired of driving across town every time I want to see you." "Adrian, that's a big step." "I know, but we've been together a year, and I love you, and I love Maya, and I want you both in my life permanently, not just when it's convenient." "What about your family? Victoria barely tolerates me. Your father's old associates probably think I'm a weakness they can exploit. Victoria respects you more than you think, and anyone who tries to use you against me will regret it. You're not a weakness, Serena. You're the strongest thing in my life." She wanted to say yes, wanted to jump at the chance to build a life with him, but she'd made that mistake before, moving too fast, trusting too much, losing herself in someone else's world. "Can I think about it?" "Take all the time you need." "But Serena, I'm not going anywhere, whether you move in tomorrow or a year from now or never. I'm staying." "That's not negotiable." 2 weeks later, she said yes. They moved into Adrian's place on a Saturday. It was chaos. Boxes everywhere, Maya crying because her schedule was disrupted. Adrian's security team hovering and making Serena nervous even though she knew they were there to keep her safe. But by the end of the day, when Maya was asleep in her new room and Serena was unpacking books in what would be her office, it felt right, like coming home, like building something that would last. "You okay?" Adrian asked from the doorway. "Yeah, just thinking." "About?" "About how a year ago I thought my life was over. And now I'm here, happy, safe, in love with a man who probably shouldn't love me back but does anyway." "Why shouldn't I love you?" "Because I'm complicated. Because I have baggage. Because loving me means dealing with my ex-husband and my daughter and my insecurities and all the ways I'm still broken from what happened." "Everyone's broken, Serena. The question is whether you find someone who loves you anyway or someone who uses your broken pieces against you. I choose to love you anyway." She crossed the room and kissed him, slow and deep and certain. "I choose you too," she whispered. "Every time. no matter what. Maya's first birthday was everything Serena had dreamed of, and nothing like what she'd imagined a year ago. The party was at the bookstore because that felt right, celebrating in the space that represented her new life. There were balloons and cake and more people than Serena expected. Kyle came. He stayed for 20 minutes, gave Maya a present, and left without causing drama. It was the best she could have hoped for. Adrian's family came too. Victoria brought an elaborate gift and actually smiled when Maya demolished her piece of cake. Even some of Adrian's associates showed up, men in expensive suits who looked like they'd never been to a child's birthday party but tried their best to seem normal. "This is weird," Serena said to Adrian, watching one of his security team try to make conversation with her former coworker from the marketing firm. "Yeah, but it's our weird." At the end of the party, after everyone had left and the bookstore was a mess of wrapping paper and frosting, Serena held Maya and looked around at the life she'd built. "We did it, baby girl," she whispered. "We survived." Maya grabbed her face with sticky fingers and laughed. That beautiful, pure, unfiltered laugh that made everything worth it. Adrian wrapped his arms around both of them from behind. "Happy birthday, Maya," he said softly. Then to Serena, "Happy new life." She leaned back against him, feeling safe and loved and whole in a way she'd never felt before. This wasn't the life she'd planned. It wasn't the story she thought she'd be living. But it was hers. Every beautiful, messy, complicated piece of it. And standing there in her bookstore, holding her daughter, loved by a man who'd seen her at her worst and chosen to stay, Serena finally understood something she'd been learning all year. Strength isn't about never breaking. It's about breaking completely and then finding the courage to rebuild. It's about accepting help even when pride tells you to do it alone. It's about trusting people who show up, not people who promise to. It's about knowing that the worst day of your life doesn't have to be the end of your story. Sometimes it's just the beginning of a better one. Kyle had handed her divorce papers thinking he was destroying her. Instead, he'd freed her. Freed her to become someone stronger, someone braver, someone who built her own life instead of living in someone else's shadow. And Adrian hadn't saved her. She'd saved herself. But he'd been there while she did it. Had held space for her to fall apart and rebuild. Had loved her without trying to fix her. Had shown her that love didn't have to be control. That partnership didn't mean losing yourself. That trust could be earned and kept. That was the lesson she wanted Maya to learn. Not that you need someone to save you, but that you can save yourself. And if you're lucky, you find people who walk beside you while you do it. People who don't leave when things get hard. Who show up at hospitals and help you paint bookstores and hold your hand through labor and love you even when you're difficult and broken and scared. "Thank you," Serena said to Adrian, though the words felt too small for what she meant. "For what? For staying, for seeing me, for loving us. Thank you for letting me." They stood there together, the three of them, in a bookstore called Chapter 2. And Serena knew with absolute certainty that this was the chapter she was meant to live. Not perfect, not easy, but real. Honest. Hers. And that was enough. That was more than enough. That was everything.